Welcome again to another math lesson. I am Jillian Pascal Haig. I am a GED teacher with Woodford County Adult Ed and Jessamine County Adult Ed as well. And today we are going to just dip our toes into a little bit of algebra for the GED test. So today we're going to be talking about evaluating algebraic expressions. So it sounds like a lot. It's a very simple thing. And you'll get it in over the course of this 10-minute video. It will not take you long. So the first thing we need to do is define a couple of vocabulary words. And the first one is a variable. A variable is any number that you don't know or a number that can change. So we often call it the unknown or an unknown number. So once you start getting into algebra for the GED test, you start seeing letters take the place of numbers or stand in for numbers. These letters in a problem are variables. So if we have 4 plus P, that P is an unknown number. It's a number that we do not know. So in algebra, we call that unknown number a variable, and we use a letter to stand in the place for it. It doesn't matter what the letter is. The letter doesn't mean anything except that we don't know what the number is. So we're going to be working with problems with variables today, but we're not going to be doing equations or anything like that. Today, we're going to be doing just expressions. So an algebraic expression is a problem that has an answer that can change. So it's a problem that does not have a set in stone answer to it. So we'll call it a problem with no equal sign. Okay, so let's think about some examples of some expressions. These are things you use every day without really knowing that you're doing algebra. So for example, let's say you work at a job where you get paid $18 an hour. How would you calculate how much you get paid every week? Well, you can use an algebraic expression. You can say, I get paid 18 times how many hours I work. So this number could vary week to week. That's why we call it a variable, because it could vary. Maybe this week I work 45 hours. Next week I work 32 hours. Maybe this week we're all quarantined at home. I'm not working any hours. So this expression uses a variable to stand in for a number that can change, a number that changes week to week. Another maybe more complicated problem that we could see is, let's say you worked at a store that sold, I don't know, jewelry, rings or something, and you got paid, let's say, $750 a week plus $20 for every ring you sell. So 20 times R. Here's another expression that we could use. You could do $750 a week plus 20. And when we stick a variable right next to a number like this, we're multiplying by that variable. So maybe this week I sell 10 rings. Next week I only sell 2. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, I'm selling 13 rings. This can change, which can change the value of the whole entire problem. So this expression is using, once again, this variable to stand in for a number that's going to change based on our real world situation. Maybe another example is, let's say you paint houses for a living and you are calculating your cost for a job, and you say, okay, paintbrushes cost $12, 12 times however many paintbrushes I buy, and paint, or gallons of paint, we'll say, since we don't want to use P twice. So let's say paint is $25 per gallon. So now we can say, okay, 12 times however many paintbrushes I need plus 25 times however many gallons I need gives us this expression. And these numbers are going to change based on how big of a house it is, how many workers you have, or whatever. Okay, so these are some examples of some expressions, algebraic expressions with variables. So, what does it mean to evaluate these expressions? When you are looking at problems that are wanting you to evaluate an expression, what they're going to do is give you a problem like this and then tell you what these letters equal. So, let's take each of these ones that we did 18. Oh, whoops. 18 times H. So we can write that as just 18H for $18 per hour. And then we'll do 750 plus 20 times, oh, not times H, times R for every ring you sell. And then 12P plus 25G. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this equal sign. Okay, so what they might say is they'll give you a problem like this, 18 times H. And then they'll tell you over here if 18, or gosh, not 18, if H equals, let's say this week you worked 35 hours, 35. So evaluate the expression 18 times H if H equals 35. So how do we go about doing this? What we do is we look for the letter H in our problem and we substitute that for 35. So now our problem is not 18 times H, it's 18 times 35. So now we can evaluate this expression, 18 times 35, and I'm going to use my TI 30XS multi-view calculator, which is what you'll use on the GED test. So you would do 18 times 35, and I would get 630. So I know that in a week that I work 35 hours, I'll make $630 before taxes. Okay? How about this problem down here? If you sell 12 rings. So how much will you make in a week where you sell 12 rings? R equals 12. So you go through your problem and you can rewrite it over here like we did before, 750 plus 20. But now instead of writing R, we know what R equals. So we're going to use this right here, 20 times 12. Okay? So we can put that into our calculator too. 750 plus 20 times 12. And we end up with 990. So that week, I would bring home $990 if I sold 12 rings. Okay? Let's look at this expression here, 12P plus 25G. So let's say in this problem, I needed 4 paintbrushes and I don't know how many gallons of paint would paint a house. Let's say 10. Okay, so let's say I needed 4 paintbrushes, 10 gallons of paint. So I would go through and everywhere I see a P, I would substitute the number 4. Everywhere I see a G, I would substitute the number 10. So our new problem would be 12 times 4 plus 25 times 10. And I can put that into my calculator. Plus 25 times 10. It would be $298. So I would need $298 to paint this house. Okay? So when we evaluate an expression, we are just replacing the letters with numbers. That's all we're doing. So let's open up a worksheet here. Okay. And let me just set it up so we can get as many problems as possible. All right, so let's take a look at some of these problems. So here we are, again, evaluating expressions, and it's just like how we said before. We're going to see the expression here, and then they're going to tell us what our variable equals, okay? So our first one is b minus 8 divided by 3 when b equals 2. So let me show you on this calculator how I would go about putting this problem in. I personally like to put a problem in exactly how it's pictured on the page, just because it helps me make fewer mistakes, basically. So I would use the fraction button. Let's see if you can see that. So I would start a fraction, and for the numerator, I would do, so our problem would be, if it's b minus 8, it would be 2 minus 8, because we know b equals 2. So 2 minus 8 divided by 3. So I would put that exact thing in the calculator. So here's my 2 minus 8 for my numerator. And then I would go down and then put in the number 3. Try not to get a glare on there. So it would be 2 minus 8 divided by 3. And then I could push over just to complete that problem and hit enter. And I get -2. And we could do this the long way too. 2 minus 8 is -6. -6 divided by 3 is -2. Okay. But I like to use the calculator if I can, because, and I encourage you to use the calculator if you can, because it will save you time on the GED test. And time that you can save doing little computations like this will give you more time to do more complicated problems on later in the test when you're running out. All right, let's look at this second problem here. We have n minus 8 divided by 10 when n equals -6. So we're going to rewrite this problem and replace the n with -6. So instead of n minus 8, it will be -6 minus 8 divided by 10. And again, I'm going to put it in the calculator just like that. -6 minus 8 divided by 10. So here it is. Okay, I'd hit enter. And I end up with equals negative 1.4. And that's fine. I can also use, in my last video, I talked about these buttons to switch between a fraction and a mixed number. So my calculator came out with -7/5. So I used this button right here to change it to a decimal, which gave me -1.4. If it's a multiple choice question and all the answers are written as mixed numbers, I can use the second function, and if this feels like too much, you can go back and watch the last video about these little calculator tricks. I'll link that underneath. You can use the second function of this button right here. So I would push second and then this button, and then I'd hit enter, and it would give me my mixed number -1 2/5, or -1 2/5. Okay, I'd encourage you now, if you feel like you've got this, take a minute and do these next 6 problems on your own. So go ahead through, do each one. If you get hung up on one, feel free to play the video and I'll go through and explain each one as I work them out. But I want you to practice these 6 problems on your own, and then fast forward to the end and you'll see all the answers on the screen. Okay? And if you get one wrong, rewind and you can see, or go back in the video and you can see me solving it for you. All right. So pause it, do these 6, and then we'll come back at the end. Okay. So number 2A, we have P minus G minus 5 when P equals -4 and G equals 1. So I'm going to rewrite the problem to say, okay, I have a P here And I know P equals -4. So I'm going to start with -4 minus, and then we have a G. And G equals 1. -4 minus 1 minus 5. So on my calculator, I clear out the screen. And to do a negative number on the calculator, you use this button right here, this negative. So that'll give you your negative sign. So -4 minus 1 minus 5 gives us -10. Okay. How about this one? -6 plus t when t equals 7. So we would substitute, we'll rewrite it, -6 plus t, which is 7. So -6 plus 7. I'll have to put that one in the calculator. That one's going to be a +1. Okay. How about 4QD? So we talked about having a letter right next to a number, and that's multiplication. So this is the same as saying 4 times Q times D, okay? When Q equals -3 and D equals -4. So 4, and I'm going to use little dots now because once you start using letters, using little X for multiplication gets confusing. So we'll use little dots for multiplication. So 4 times Q, which is -3, -3 times D, which is -4. So 4 times -3 times -4 gives us a +48. All right, how about this one? G minus -4 divided by 7. Now here we see a little bit of funky symbols. They're putting these parentheses here just so you can definitely see that this is a negative number, okay? It's the same as if they wrote G minus -4. That's okay too, but they like to put the parentheses in there so that you can differentiate that this is a minus sign, this is a negative sign. Okay, so G equals -1. So again, we'll rewrite it. -1 minus, we'll keep it just like they have it, minus -4 divided by 7. So -1 minus -4 divided by 7. Okay, that gives us 3/7. We'll keep it like that because the decimal is real long. Okay, so we'll say 3/7. All right, here we have 3 divided by S when S equals 0. Well, this is a problem because you cannot divide a number by 0. So this is kind of a trick question. 3 over 0 it's undefined because you can't divide a number by 0. So this is like a tricky question we'll just ignore for now. All right, I'm going to move my face over to here so that we can do this last problem. All right, so here we have t minus -6 divided by 7 when t equals 6. So 6 minus -6 divided by 7. 6 minus 6 minus -6 divided by 7. And this time, I'm again going to use that mixed number button. And I end up with 1 5/7. All right. So I hope that this has helped us with evaluating some expressions. You can find lots of practice for this online. You just Google evaluating expressions worksheets. And if I find anything good, I'll stick it down below as well. But this is a super important skill for the algebra section of the GED test, and it's also important for the geometry section. So today, we're talking about just evaluating expressions. Tomorrow, I'll make a video about evaluating expressions for geometry on the GED test. So it'll be kind of a part 2 situation. Okay, I hope this has helped. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment down below. And somebody, either me or another math teacher, will answer all your questions, hopefully. I hope you have a great day.